I'm Martin Thomas, and it's Wednesday, the 7th of August, 2024. Welcome to the 7-Minute Briefing Podcast, brought to you by Sat7. In this month's country briefing, we journey to the easternmost reaches of Sat7's satellite footprint, the Central Asian nation of Tajikistan. The presenter of a new Tajik women's talk show shares with us the difficulties faced by Christians in Tajikistan, but also how God is using Sat7 to build his church there. Tajikistan is a landlocked mountainous nation in Central Asia. Over 90% of its landscape is dominated by the Pamir and Alay mountain ranges, earning it the nickname the Roof of the World. Its culture and history are deeply intertwined with the ancient Persian Empire and the Silk Road, which once traversed its rugged landscape. Since gaining independence from the Soviet Union in 1991, Tajikistan has navigated the complexities of post-Soviet nation-building, marked by civil unrest, economic challenges, and efforts towards modernization. In the predominantly Muslim country of Tajikistan, Christians represent a small minority. Tajik Christians often face societal pressures and governmental restrictions, which affect their freedom to practice their faith openly. It is this lack of freedom, as well as frequent harassment and hostility, which puts Tajikistan at 46 on the World Watch list of countries where it is most difficult to be a Christian. Isolation and persecution are the norm for Tajik Christians, who comprise less than 1% of the population. There are churches in the country's two biggest cities, but none in the districts and villages because of strict rules around registration. Farangis, a Tajik presenter of a new Sat7 program for women in Tajikistan, shared with us that, without registration, no Christians can gather, so people in rural areas cannot gather. To highlight the dangers of informal gatherings, Farangis told a story. She said, "Several churches were gathering without registration. The police grabbed them, and all of them were in very big trouble because of that. People then were scared to gather without registration." It is not just the authorities who inflict persecution. There can be hostility at the family level too. Most Tajik families are under pressure from other relatives, said Farangis. "I have experienced it myself. My parents were rejected because their children became Christians." Some new Christians in Tajikistan face physical abuse too. According to Open Doors, female believers are particularly at risk of violence or imprisonment at the hands of their families. "My friend was beaten," Farangis recalled. Her father beat her because she became a Christian. Despite the dangers facing seekers and new Christians in her home country, Farangis has hope because people are coming to faith in Jesus. She recently met some Tajiks from rural areas who gave their lives to Christ after watching programs on Sat7. One man, who was raised in a non-Christian family in a small village, told Farangis that he encountered Jesus for the first time through the Persian language channel Sat7 Pars. He started watching the Farsi language programs. Then, as Sat7 started releasing more in the Tajik language, he watched all these too, delighted to be learning about God in his mother tongue. Farangis also met two sisters in a rural district, both of whom became followers of Jesus and grew in their faith as a result of watching Sat7's Tajik programs. Sat7 started making programs in the Tajik language in 2017. First the music and testimony program, Our Salvation is in Him, followed by teaching program, Foundations of the Christian Faith, and then discipleship show, Christian Family. They've been broadcast on Sat7's Persian language channel, Sat7 Pars, which also makes programs in Farsi and Dari for viewers in Iran and Afghanistan. The music you've been listening to is from a worship program called Honour. Producer Mikhail Turner believes that sharing the gospel via satellite TV is the most effective method of reaching millions in Persian countries with the good news, a view informed by his on-the-ground experience. What especially inspires me to continue producing more Tajik shows are my trips to Tajikistan, where I meet both future presenters and viewers who have been impacted by the programming, Mikhail said. Farangis, who we mentioned earlier, and her sister Hamroz co-present In the World of Women's Thoughts, a powerful new talk show for Tajik speakers on Sat7. Both sisters have sought religious freedom in other countries. Farangis now lives in Sweden while Hamroz lives in the USA, but they are passionate about reaching their homeland with the good news. The new show, produced by Sat7 partner Media Mission The Messengers, is part of a wider strategy to support Tajik Christians in their life of faith. The programme, called In the World of Women's Thoughts, will address vital topics to help Tajik women grow as believers and live to the glory of God. The programme makers considered the specific challenges facing these viewers when preparing the show, including loneliness, hopelessness, and broken family relationships. Thank you for listening to the 7-Minute Briefing from Sat7. Take a look at today's show notes, where you'll find links to today's briefing article, plus some prayers written for you, your church, and small group to pray for Tajikistan. And look out too for our upcoming issue of Insight magazine, which explores the languages and dialects that Sat7 is broadcasting the gospel in across the Middle East and North Africa.